today's home Pathshala. It will transform your dream into reality. Good afternoon, my dear student. Today we are going to learn the parametric and non-parametric statistics and their concept, their uses, comparisons, and related exercises. And before that, we have to understand the type of statistics. Type of statistics can be divided on the basis of function and on the basis of distribution. On the basis of function, statistics can be divided: descriptive statistics, which is based on measures of central tendency and dispersion; correlation statistics, correlation and regression; third, inferential statistics is based on estimation, hypothesis, and hypothesis test. And inferential statistics help to draw the conclusion. And on the basis of distribution, sample part of the population can be divided into parametric statistics and non-parametric statistics. So, distribution of data can be divided into three parts: discrete and continuous, normal distribution, and sampling distribution. And basically, research method is based on quantitative method and qualitative method. This is our final revision strategy. And descriptive research. Descriptive, qualitative, and quantitative research. I have told you there is measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. The quantitative research is based on descriptive statistics. Measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode, and measures of dispersion, range, standard deviation, variance, skewness, and curves. Correlation statistics. Correlation statistics can be divided: correlation and regression. Scattered plot, linear correlation statistics, the correlation and regression. Correlation means basically a scattered plot, line of best fit, Pearson-Spearman correlation, Pearson's correlation, Spearman correlation, regression, bivariate, and multiple. And our inferential statistics, hypothesis testing based on parametric test and non-parametric test. The famous parametric test are t-test and ANOVA, and non-parametric test is the chi-square test, run test, sign test, Kushal-Wallis test, and Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. Now we are going, and quantitative research in the case of different technique I will discuss later. Comparative study, qualitative research, and quantitative research we have to cover. Today's our main topic, the most important thing we have to remember, the choosing of statistical test based on analysis of data, purpose of research, and types of data available. Purpose of research can be divided three parts: comparison of mean, median, or proportion. Number one. Number two, relation between two variables, correlation. Number three, predicting one variable to other based on regression. Proportion, correlation, and regression, purpose of this. And types of data can be divided: types of variable or data, numerical or categorical data, parametric to be analyzed, mean, median, proportion. Nature of data can be studied: unpaired or independent, or paired or dependent data. Number of group data or distribution of data, normal, not normal, or dichotomous. Here, most appropriate test for statistical data. In the case of comparison, normal distribution, when distribution are normal, we use in the two data set. In the case of two data set, we use the t-test. Normal distribution, in the case of more than two data set, we use the ANOVA, pair ANOVA or overall ANOVA. Case of non-normal distribution, two data set, pair sample. In the case of the pair sample two data set, we use the Wilcoxon sign rank test. And in the case of non-normal distribution, unpaired data, we use the Mann-Whitney test. And non-normal distribution, more than two data set, we use the pair sample Friedman test, and unpaired case we use the Kushal-Wallis test. And dichotomous distribution or binomial distribution, two data set, in case of comparison, we use the chi-square test and basically chi-square testing. In the case of association, correlation between two variables, normal distribution, we use the Pearson correlation. Non-normal distribution, we use the Spearman-Rank order. And in the case of prediction regression, normal distribution case, we use the linear regression. Non-normal distribution, in the case of prediction, we use non-parametric regression. These are the very important chart you have to keep in your mind. It will be very effective to remember to solve the MCQ. So, in the parametric test and non-parametric test, we use a hypothesis testing. The parametric data can be one sample test. Another important chart, try to remember parametric data, one sample test, we use the t-test and get-test. Two sample test, we use the independent sample and dependent sample. And more than two data, we use the ANOVA, one-way or two-way analysis of variance. Two sample tests can be divided independent sample and dependent sample. Independent sample can be divided to group t-test and z-test. A dependent sample use the pair t-test. In the non-parametric data, one sample or sign test, one sample test means sign test, Wilcoxon sign rank test, chi-square test, Kolmogorov, V, Smirnov and run test. And two sample test, independent sample and dependent sample. In the case of independent sample, you use the chi-square test, Mann-Whitney test, median and Kolmogorov, Smirnov. And dependent sample, we use the Spearman-Rank correlation, Friedman test, sign test, Wilcoxon test, and chi-square. And more than two non-parametric, we use the Kuskor-Wallis one-way ANOVA and Friedman two-way ANOVA. These are the chart is a very, very important thing. So, what is parametric test? The parametric test assume.
Good morning, my dear student. Before going to discussion the class, there is important information. We have already started UGC NEET and JRF coaching for tourism administration and management and paper 1 also. We will provide online classes. Number 1, number 2, syllabus wise coverage. Number 2, number 3, previous year short question and analysis and explanation each and every question. I will provide also PDF note. There is a doubt clearing session and you also get the flexible class schedule. Student who have interest, you can join through this WhatsApp number 9123711814. Thank you.
That observation are independent, normally distributed population of the values, and dependent variable is interval level data. In the case of hypothesis testing parametric test, we use the population means at the focus. Population mean at the focus, the central tendency. In the case of non-parametric test, what do you mean by non-parametric test? Data are not normally distributed. Data's parametric test, in the case of parametric test, data are normally distributed. In the non-parametric test, data are not normally distributed. Dependent variable, in the case of non-parametric test, dependent variable may be ordinal or nominal scale. In the hypothesis test, main focus comparison of rank, median or frequencies. Now, this is another important chart, my dear student, that is a comparative study on parametric and non-parametric statistical test. In the case of central tendency, parametric test in the case of central tendency, parametric test is the mean. Non-parametric test is median or mode. In the case of correlation, parametric test is the Pearson product moment or rank order correlation. And in the case of non-parametric test, Spearman rank order test. In the case of independent sample 2 group, in parametric test, we use independent sample t-test and corresponding non-parametric test, we use the Mann-Whitney test. In the case of independent sample more than 2 group, In the parametric test, we use one-way analysis of variance or ANOVA. Comparatively, non-parametric, we use the Kruskal-Wallis test. Dependent sample 2 condition. In the case of dependent sample 2 condition, parametric test, we use the pair sample t-test, and non-parametric test, we use Wilcoxon sign line test. In the case of dependent sample more than 2, we use the parametric test, we use the one-way repeated measures analysis of variance, and corresponding non-parametric test, we use the Friedman analysis. So this chart is another important chart you try to remember for your first revision and solve your MCQ. Now we are going to solve some MCQ. When the nature of population from which sample is drawn is not known to be normally distributed, the data can be analyzed with the help of non-parametric test. In a non-parametric test, the data are not normally distributed. Parametric statistics is normally distributed. Descriptive statistics analyze both normally and not normally, both cases. Our next question, for use of non-parametric test like the chi-square, which of the following assumption has to be satisfied? They have given the full statement. The data should arise from interval measures. The distribution has to be normal. No assumption about the nature of distribution is required. The variable under inference must be dichotomous. In the case of non-parametric statistics, no assumption about the nature of distribution is required. The correct option. Which of the following is a parametric correlation? The product moment correlation is a parametric correlation. Product moment correlation is a parametric correlation. Rank differences and point binomials is a non-parametric correlation. In the case of partial is a correlation find out method. Chi-square test is an example of parametric, non-parametric, descriptive survey test. The correct option is a non-parametric test. Descriptive test data nature study the mean and median. Which of the following is a non-parametric test? Analysis of covariance, analysis of variance, median test, and criteria ratio. The correct option is a median test. Median test is a non-parametric statistics, is based on descriptive test. What is the parametric test is following list? F test and T test. F test and T test is based on parametric test. Sign test and median test is the non-parametric test. Which of the following is not a non-parametric test? T test, sign test, chi-square test, run test. Which of the following is not? So sign test, chi-square test, run test is a non-parametric test. So T test, which of the following is not a non-parametric? The T test is a parametric test. It's not a non-parametric test. Sign test, chi-square test, run test is the non-parametric. That's why I have told you, you have to minutely study the chart I have given you. Which of the following is a non-parametric test? T test, F test, chi-square test, J test. The chi-square test is the non-parametric test. So, which of the following correlation coefficient can be considered as a non-parametric in nature? Which of the following correlation coefficient can be considered as a non-parametric in nature? Point binomial correlation. Product moment correlation and partial correlation is a parametric correlation. So, next is an important topic, the statistical test of significance. The parametric test and other non-parametric test. Set 1 and set 2. Set 1 is a parametric test. The parametric and set 2 is a non-parametric test. The set 1 parametric test, independent t-test is the comparative, correlated or corresponding test is the man-Whitney test. Dependent t-test is related with the Wilcoxon t-test. ANOVA F test is related with the Kruskal-Wallis H test. So, these kinds of questions can be provided in UGC. Which combination of the following considered hold a good for non-parametric test? Number two, no assumption about the defining properties of the population. Non-parametric, no assumption. Method that do not use distributional assumption. And next, use of data that are not obtained as interval or ratios measures. So these three conditions is the perfect condition for non-parametric tests. A researcher uses parametric test in lieu of non-parametric test for analysis of interpretation of result. The case of unethical research practice, malpractice in recording of result, technical lapse in handling data, manipulation of research result. The correct option is the technical lapse in handling data. So these are the important topic of parametric and non-parametric test. My dear student, you have to read this chart very minutely. It is a very effective tool to understand the parametric and non-parametric statistics. So, if you have any queries or any doubt, you may contact with me, and I think this is very, very effective for the first revision. Your exam, 31st December, you have to in the exam, and for first revision and important topic, you take it to mind. So, keep touch with this channel.